The government shutdown continues on. Meanwhile, Chris Hoar, who is a communications person for SAT 123, they do government contracting and they know what is on the inside, says that this is putting us at risk from a national security standpoint. Chris Hoar, welcome to The Truth, and explain yourself, please.
Well, thanks for having me on, John. It's great to be here. So what we've seen with the government shutdown is a couple of things. One, CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They're really the front line in defense against cyber attacks, whether they're coming internally or from around the world. And CISA coordinates information it receives about attacks and then passes that on to other government agencies, private corporations, and so on, so that they can either mitigate or stop attacks, hopefully, that are ongoing.
So tell us about SAT 123. How much do they have their tentacles inside our federal government?
Well, I mean, we're one of many providers of satellite communication services, including satellite phones as used by the U.S. military around the world, and satellite internet systems such as BGAN or Starlink. And essentially, our communication systems allow you to communicate when the regular infrastructure goes down. So when cell towers go down or fiber lines go down, satellite phones and satellite internet units keep working because they don't rely on any kind of ground-based infrastructure, John.
Well, we just saw Starlink, SpaceX launch a heavy Falcon rocket this week, and they carried into space a number of Starlink transmitters, receivers, satellite dishes. Were you involved with that at all?
No, not us directly, but of course we do provide all the Starlink services from the units that you can install in your house or car, portable units, and then we can activate those for you. So, if you have a Starlink unit, and we have units that are free with activation, unlike anyone else, but you can pay from, $150, $200 a month and on up to get high-speed internet access no matter where you are. John, we've become very reliant on our cell phones and our internet connectivity, and not just as individuals, but companies as well, and of course governments. So when those infrastructures are affected or go down, it can put you in real jeopardy. Either personal safety can be in jeopardy, or your business can be in jeopardy, of course, if it's not connected to the internet. So that's what we try and mitigate by providing handsets and internet connectivity units, which we can also install on cars, buses, planes, boats, that kind of thing, or buildings. We have our units installed in refineries, radio stations, etc., throughout the country, all with an eye to basically having a fully reliable, redundant system. Or, of course, there are many people who are in areas where they don't have either good or any kind of connectivity from a ground-based point of view or cellular point of view. So we can keep you connected wherever you are, because the fact is that only 7% of this country, for example, is covered by a cell phone service on a good day when everything's working.
Wow, that's amazing. 7%.
Yeah.
And I just traveled through Europe, and internet and cell coverage is, I wouldn't say spotty, but it's nothing like it is in the U.S. I was really surprised.
Yeah, we're very spoiled here.
And we take a lot for granted. There's no question about it. So are there other companies in addition to Starlink that have got satellites orbiting the globe for communications, internet, phone, what else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big ones are Inmarsat and Iridium. Iridium, of course, is the original service that launched in the late 90s. But Inmarsat and Iridium provide global satellite phone service, as well as limited internet connectivity. The BGAN service provides full stream connectivity. It's quite expensive, though, but Starlink is certainly the best priced these days. And they're putting up more satellites every day, as we see with these rockets going up. But those are the big three. There are some other ones controlled by the Arab world that we don't mess around with particularly. But, Iridium and Inmarsat is the way to go for phone connectivity. And I would say Starlink is the way to go for internet, satellite internet. There are some European companies kind of emerging there, but, we stick with what works. Iridium, Inmarsat, and BGAN are our main ones.
Well, is there capacity in the skies? What sphere do these satellites travel in?
Well, I mean, some of them travel in the high Earth orbit. The Starlink's a little lower down. But when it comes to capacity, the Iridium network was built with over 70 plus satellites originally. And, I think they were thinking that everyone was going to have a satellite phone, and it didn't quite turn out that way. So there is a ton of capacity still available on both Iridium and Inmarsat. We got a long way to go before they max that out. And with the upgrades in the capabilities of satellites now, we're going to see a lot more connectivity a lot quicker, and I would think cheaper even going forward.
Well, it seems to me, I mean, I don't know how much it costs to build a satellite and then launch it and then maintain it. I don't even know how you maintain it when it's up there, but I'm sure that people that are smarter than I have figured that out. But it eliminates all the fiber optic cable that we have spent a bloody fortune installing all across America. And then those ugly ass cellular towers, which I just hate seeing littering the landscape. So, on a cost, performance, and benefit analysis, could satellites do it bigger, better for less?
Yeah, and I think they already are beginning to move into that phase, and over the next 10 years, I think we'll see. My guess is we'll see a big reduction in the number of cell towers as direct to satellite connectivity becomes more widely available.
So, what about security? I would think that it would be maybe easier to hack than a traditional cellular signal. Although, with the advent of the FISA warrants, we found out that was very easy to hack.
Well, yeah, actually, it's funny you should bring this up because just in this last week, we've seen a couple of studies come out from universities in California, I think San Diego in particular. And I won't name names, but what these guys did was they put an $800 dish on their roof, and they managed to intercept millions of lines of data and code being sent up to a cellular communications network. That was not encrypted somehow. The Iridium Inmarsat systems are encrypted, much harder to crack. There are holes, but I would say the biggest threat to the security on the cellular side is the effort from the Chinese and others to hack the software, the control planes of towers, the backhaul fiber itself, because that's the lowest hanging fruit for our enemies is our infrastructure. There's no doubt. It costs a lot of money to send people, bombs, ships, planes, etc. But it's very cheap and very efficient to attack an infrastructure, unfortunately. And so we see a lot of these countries employ thousands or tens of thousands of people every day to do nothing but attack our infrastructure and try and steal and corrupt our data. The amount of cyber attacks coming from nation states as well as other bad actors is in the millions per day, whether they're phishing attacks or ransomware attacks. So our security as a whole is under constant threat, and it's a growing threat. That's why agencies like CISA are absolutely vital. And in my opinion, government shutdown or not, we seem to have them all the time now. CISA should not be affected by that. We don't shut off our battleships and turn them around because of government shutdown, quite rightly. But cyber warfare, is the front lines of modern warfare.
Well, I want to ask you one more question, then we'll get to the government shutdown in depth. You mentioned earlier planes. Now, on my flight to and from Europe, I had internet connection the whole way. I didn't think it was great, but it wasn't. It beat nothing. Talk to us about Sat 123's products for airplanes, and I've got a small plane that I fly. Can I put a Sat 123 transmitter and receiver in it and have internet and phone?
Yeah, we'd be happy to help you with that. We install on private planes, larger commercial planes. We have certified installers throughout the country and bonded who can do that kind of thing. We do a lot with ships as well. Obviously, anyone who's got a yacht or is a fisherman will tell you once you get more than a mile or two out to sea, your cell phone's not going to work. And certainly a lot of people are going a lot further out than that. So those guys, have relied on this kind of communication for a long time. But also American truckers, the great men and women who power this country, will tell you, again, they're out in these big freeways and they're not getting connectivity a lot of the time or most of the time. And if they break down, especially if they're in Death Valley or something, they can't afford to be sitting there waiting and hoping the truck's going to drive by. So for pretty much all industries, satellite communications, is a requirement in this area. But yeah, planes, boats, ships, you name it. And again, refineries, chemical plants, other industrial plants that are kind of away from larger populated areas use our services, and we install on them as well. And I believe you're familiar with, you work with John Fredericks, a
Correct.
friend of mine whose show I go on often. He's purchased Starlink units from us as either backup or primary service for his some of his stations because he, like the rest of us, can't afford to be disconnected for any amount of time.
It is fascinating as it is exciting. So let's talk about the government shutdown. Now, your focus is on CISA, and you're saying that the shutdown has effectively suspended CISA?
No, I mean, and we don't know exactly the numbers, but typically in a furlough situation, you're looking at 80 to 90% of workers that are not going to be at work during the shutdown. I was just on their website, and they are not updating their site due to the shutdown. That says that right there on their front page. Um, Undoubtedly, there are clearly still going to be some people there, but the problem is this is a massive problem, and I think they only employ a couple of thousand people on a full day, normal day. But again, with millions of attacks coming in daily, it's a big problem that they have to deal with, even when they're fully staffed. The other thing that's happened, John, is that the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act expired on October the 1st, same day the shutdown started. And this act from 2018 was basically enabled private companies and organizations to share attack information with the government without fear of retribution through liability in the courts. And since that act has expired, companies are less willing to share information with the government from attacks they're seeing on their own infrastructure, again, through worries about liability. So, that's another problem that we have right now. And certainly, look, those who seek to do us harm across the world are paying attention. They follow American politics. And we saw immediately on October the 1st the amount of scanning activity that was going on U.S. sites and infrastructure went up, as we would expect, because they see an opportunity, they're going to try and take it.
Amazing. Well, I would just be astounded if our own federal government left us exposed in that way through the shutdown. I mean, to me, that would be more important perhaps than a standing military presence, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is at least as important given the kind of attacks we're in, and given how much we rely on this. It's like, look, if you or I leave the house in the morning and we forget our phones, the first thing we do is turn around, go back and get them, right? We can't
100%.
be without just connectivity on a basic level, but on a bigger level, we've got our water supply, our air traffic control, our power grid, our telecommunications networks. All of these things completely rely on the cyber infrastructure. They're all connected, and if that infrastructure comes under attack, the results can be devastating. We saw earlier this year in Spain, the entire country went offline, and the Spanish authorities said it was, they just misdirected some power here, there, or otherwise. And I can't prove that didn't happen, but to me, it looked very much, had all the hallmarks of a cyber attack. Where the electricity was essentially all diverted to one place, so it would just shut down everything. And they were offline. Their entire country was offline for over 24 hours. Banking systems, financial networks, communications, everything was offline. It was a complete and total blackout. And if it can happen there, John, it can happen here. We're not doing that much more, that much better than the Spanish are, so we have to be vigilant, but we have to be prepared for what, we're going to do if we face such an attack, which in Spain lasted just over 24 hours. But this kind of attack, if done right, could go on for weeks or even longer.
So, what should, for the benefit of our listeners, what should the average person do to protect their information? Passwords, I don't know, personal information. I mean, where are we vulnerable, and what should we be doing?
Well, unfortunately, we're vulnerable at the most basic level. In data that was obtained from a recent attack of millions of records, uh, nearly 50% of all the passwords that were stolen were the word password, right? So on a very
Yes.
basic, I mean, it doesn't take a genius hacker to figure to try that one. So we got to be much more vigilant about the passwords we use. We should be using two-stage verification wherever possible. All big services provide that. So someone can't just get your password. You'll get a text notification to your phone saying, "Are you sure you want? Here's your login code to get into your Gmail account or whatever it is." These are kind of the basic steps. But above and beyond that, cybersecurity on the server level is a bigger problem, because even the companies that run the big data centers and networks, they get hacked. They're prone to this as well. And the reason, in my opinion, is that they're single points of failure. No matter how big a company is, if that company gets taken offline, if their data centers get taken offline, with that goes all of their clients. We need to be much more distributed with our data, and I think also with our infrastructure. The power grid in this country has so many single points of failure, and so until we start to decentralize and distribute our networks, we're going to remain vulnerable pretty much no matter what.
Well, thank you, Chris Hoar. That's a fascinating conversation. You've given us a lot of good knowledge and information that we can use in each of our individual cases. And I hope they will fix this government shutdown quickly, because according to you, it is leading us exposed to a certain degree. I can't remember the last time an actual attack was made on the United States. Most would say Pearl Harbor. I might include 9/11 as part of that. I'm not for sure, but um, this we know is happening on a daily basis. That in itself should be impetus for our leaders to fix this problem and get us back to a state of normalcy.
From you, from your lips, John, I totally agree. And hopefully, that's something that we'll see as a result of this. I know the President Trump administration is very focused on security, and hopefully this will become front and center for them as well, because it affects every single one of us.
Chris Hoare, he does communications and uh, is the spokesperson for SAT 123. Thank you for coming on The Truth, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, John.